The sun hung low over the Serengeti, a molten disk dimmed by the haze of dust rising from the dry season. Across the cracked savannah, a young male lion named Kovu walked slowly, every muscle moving with the stiffness of a hunter who had gone too long without a successful kill. Kovu was 3 years old, too old to linger in his birth pride, too young to challenge an established male, a dangerous in-between. The land offered no sympathy. The grass was thin, the zebra herds shifting farther each week toward the promise of storms that had not yet come. Vultures circled early now, as if impatient. The echo came again, a distant boom, then a roll, like thunder stripped of its clouds. Kovu lifted his head, ears pricked. It was unnatural, metallic, sharp, and jarring. Not the sky, humans. On the ridge beyond the acacia grove sat a thin line of vehicles. Poacher trucks, some said. Wildlife rangers, said others. On this day, Kovu could smell the difference. The stinging tang of diesel mixed with the greasy scent of humans who did not fear consequence. The noise hadn't come from them, but from somewhere past them, beyond the old riverbed where elephants sometimes gathered. Kovu didn't understand what gunfire was, not with words, but with instinct. Every lion understood what it meant when animals screamed and the birds fled before they could finish their meals. He stood still, tail low, the cracked earth radiating heat into his paws. And the echo wouldn't die. It rolled across the plain again and again. To survive here, one needed to know when to move and when to hide. Kovu chose to move. A kilometre away, in a shallow depression surrounded by fever trees, wildlife ranger Amara Nioni knelt beside a dying elephant. She'd been first to arrive after the radio call. Fresh poacher activity. Shots fired. Possibly a calf down. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the helplessness she had wrestled with for years. The cow elephant lay on her side, a massive, beautiful shape heaving in pain. A bullet wound darkened her shoulder like a spreading bruise. A tiny female calf pressed her forehead against her mother, trying to wake her with delicate trumpets that broke Amara's heart. "Shh, little one," Amara whispered. "We're here now." Her partner, Ranger Yusuf Karega, scanned the surroundings with binoculars. "They moved east," he said. "Probably toward the marsh. They took one tusk and rushed the job. We need backup." Amara nodded, wiped sweat from her brow, and radioed in. The nearest unit was an hour away. Too long. Always too long. The elephant calf stumbled and nudged her mother again. When the cow exhaled her final breath, the air around them went terribly quiet. Amara bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood. "We'll take care of her," she said softly, though the promise felt fragile. From the ridge above, Kovu watched them. The smell of death reached him first, then the mournful sound of the calf. Lions respected elephants. No pride hunted them unless desperate. But the scent of poachers, of danger, travelled farther than any other. Kovu stayed low, watching not the rangers, but the horizon behind them. He knew the poachers hadn't gone far. Human predators returned to scenes like these, drawn by greed the way hyenas were drawn by carrion. The cracked savannah held its breath. 3 days passed. Kovu's stomach tightened with hunger, a deep gnawing ache that sharpened every sense. The herds had moved east toward wetter grass, and the lions followed, but Kovu had no pride now. He hunted alone. He tracked a weak wildebeest calf for an hour, then lost it when a pair of hyenas intercepted. He attempted a stalk on a warthog, but the wind betrayed him. The dry season punished mistakes instantly. While resting under a thorn tree, Kovu heard the rumbling of an engine. He froze. Humans again. But this time he recognized the smell of the rangers, the same woman and man who'd been with the fallen elephant. He did not fear them. Lions were wary but accustomed to ranger vehicles. They brought neither food nor harm. Amara and Yusuf carried supplies, milk mixture, blankets, ropes. In the rear of the truck stood the elephant calf, small, trembling, but alive. Amara had named her Nia, meaning purpose. The calf trumpeted weakly, and Kovu flicked an ear. Predators rarely wasted energy studying unrelated species, but something about Nia's cry tugged at memories from his own youth, the distress call he had made when separated from his pride during a storm. Amara climbed into the back and stroked Nia's head. "You'll make it," she murmured, though doubt shadowed her eyes. "You have to." Kovu watched as the truck drove off, leaving a swirling cloud of dust. If the humans were uneasy, Kovu sensed it too. The poacher group was still in the area. Every scavenger, every predator could smell the fear left behind on the wind. That night, the moon rose thin and pale. Kovu followed the scent of zebra herds, driven by relentless hunger. He approached the outskirts of a migrating group and crouched low. When he lunged, he failed. Again. His paw scraped dry earth, throwing dust instead of landing claws. The zebras bolted, hooves thunderous, forming a stampede that rocked the plain. Kovu chased until exhaustion dragged him down. He collapsed, panting, ribs visible beneath his fur. On the cracked savannah, failure echoed just as loudly as gunfire. The poachers returned on the 7th night. Amara's unit had tracked them for days, but the criminals were practiced ghosts. They moved without headlights, slept in dry riverbeds, and carried rifles wrapped in cloth to avoid clinking metal. But Kovu noticed them first. He'd found a fresh water puddle, rare, shallow, but life-saving, and drank until his throat stopped burning. Then he heard it, the soft scrape of boots on sand. 3 men, their voices low, their rifles heavy with intent. Kovu hid in the tall grass and watched. Predators knew predators. The men approached the temporary ranger outpost, a small tented station where Amara, Yusuf, and 2 more rangers were keeping Nia until she could be transferred to a sanctuary. One poacher muttered, "The calf will draw the mother herd. Easy money. We take her now." Another grinned in the dim moonlight. "Or take supplies. Kill the rangers if needed." Kovu did not understand human words, but he understood their posture, their scent, the tension like coiled rope. Inside the outpost tent, Nia let out a frightened trumpet. The men reacted instantly. Gunfire split the night. The first shot ripped through the tent canvas. Rangers dove for cover. Yusuf fired warning shots. Amara grabbed Nia's rope harness to keep her low and quiet. Kovu's instincts flared. Flight, fight, run, hide, but then a bullet struck the earth not far from where he crouched. The shock jolted him. The poachers spread out, shooting wildly, unaware that one apex predator was concealed beside them. The moment one man stumbled near the grass, Kovu reacted. A sudden explosion of muscle. He sprang. The poacher screamed as the lion collided with him, knocking him down. Kovu didn't stay long. He wasn't defending humans, only striking because the danger had crashed into his world, but the effect was immediate. The other 2 men panicked, firing into the dark and shouting conflicting orders. This gave the rangers the opening they needed. Yusuf tackled one. Amara fired a flare high into the sky, bathing the chaos in bright red light. Ranger backup units, already en route, increased their speed when they saw the signal. The final poacher fled, leaving his rifle behind. Kovu vanished into the night, shaken but alive, leaving behind a scene he would not remember for its violence, but for its noise. The savannah trembled with echoes, shouts, gunfire, flares, trumpets. Long after the humans quieted, Kovu walked alone under the stars, thinking only of survival, though something deeper stirred, a shift in territory, a shift in fate. The dry season returned almost a year later, though this time its arrival felt different. Not gentler, never gentler, but more familiar, like a rival Kovu had fought before and now understood. The grass thinned again, turning golden, brittle. Herds tightened into defensive clusters. Predators sharpened their patience. And something else moved through the region. A new coalition of young male lions, 3 brothers, entering from the northern escarpment. Kovu sensed them before he ever saw them. Their scent trailed across his territory like an old wound reopening. 3 males meant power, 3 meant risk. Alone, Kovu could face 1, but 3, they could take everything. Prey routes, resting spots, water access, even his life. On the second night after their arrival, Kovu found a zebra carcass near a dried-up marsh. It wasn't killed by him, the bite marks were wrong. Too shallow, too many. A messy kill, the kind a young lion might make while still learning. Kovu circled the carcass, tasting the air. His eyes narrowed. The coalition was close. From a cluster of thorn bushes, movement emerged. The 3 brothers stepped into the open, their shoulders broad, their confidence unshakable. They were not yet at peak strength, but they were hungry, in body and ambition. The largest, with a pale mane, growled a low warning. Kovu did not step back. The standoff stretched long enough for vultures to gather overhead. Finally, the smallest brother circled, attempting to flank Kovu. A test. A threat disguised as curiosity. Kovu answered by lowering his head, mane bristling, a low rumble rising from deep within his chest. The pale-maned leader snorted as if amused, but then, on the horizon, another sound rose. Vehicle engines. The coalition turned toward it, distracted. Kovu kept watching, instincts tight. A ranger convoy moved along the far ridge, Amara's team checking for poacher tracks after a recent report. The sight of humans did not frighten the lions, but it irritated them. Humans disrupted hunts. Humans drove prey away. Humans were noise. The brothers retreated first, melting back into the brush. Not out of fear, just strategy. Kovu stayed until they vanished entirely. Only then did he exhale. This encounter was not the last. The coalition would return. And next time, the grass would not offer him any shield. That night he paced his territory line again and again, tracing the invisible boundary with the restlessness of an animal who knew conflict was coming. For the first time in months, Kovu did not sleep. Far across the plains, the orphaned elephant Nia, no longer small, no longer fragile, walked with her adoptive herd through a corridor of acacia trees. She was roughly 5 years old now, curious, bold, and sometimes careless in the way only young elephants could be. On this day, her careless curiosity brought danger. A snare, thin wire looped around grass, nearly invisible, designed for antelope but deadly to any animal. Nia stepped forward and the loop cinched around her front leg. Pain exploded. She trumpeted in terror as she stumbled, the wire tightening each time she pulled. The herd panicked, forming defensive lines, rumbling, distressed. The matriarch tried to help, but the snare was drawn tight, digging deeper with every movement. Far away, a distant patrol unit heard the trumpets and radioed for Amara's team. Within 30 minutes, the rangers were speeding across the plains. When they arrived, the herd initially resisted. Elephants did not trust humans easily. Dust clouds rose as the matriarch spread her ears, warning. Yusuf used calm, rhythmic hand gestures they'd practiced for years. Amara spoke softly, keeping her voice low, steady. Only when Nia collapsed from exhaustion did the matriarch relent, stepping aside with a deep, mournful rumble. The rangers worked fast, bolt cutters, rope, a top to keep the young elephant calm. The snare was embedded deep, cutting into flesh. Infection threatened. Amara's jaw tightened as she cleaned the wound. "She'll live," she said, "but she needs daily treatment for weeks." As they finished, something shifted in the tall grass nearby. Yusuf raised a hand. Lion. Amara froze. A lone male. Familiar. Kovu stepped out, mane catching the sunlight, amber eyes fixed on the scene, not attacking, not stalking, simply observing. Rangers knew this lion by sight now. He'd been spotted near their patrol routes often, calm around vehicles, distant but not aggressive. Nia lifted her trunk weakly toward him. Kovu huffed once, a short, uninterpretable sound. Then he turned, disappearing back into the grass as quietly as he had come. Amara exhaled. "Funny," she murmured. "He always appears when something's about to happen." Yusuf nodded without looking up. "This land is small," he said. "Animals cross the same paths far more often than we realize." They transported Nia to a care enclosure for treatment. The herd followed at a distance before finally breaking off, trusting, hoping the humans would return their family member soon. That night, as Nia slept under the glow of lanterns and Kovu patrolled a ridge half a kilometer away, the savannah hummed with its living chorus, hyenas whooping, insects buzzing, distant buffalo grunting. Yet beneath the louder noises lay another tension. The coalition of 3 young males moved silently through the darkness, getting closer to Kovu's land with every hour. And high above them all, moonlight spilled over the cracked earth as though preparing the stage for what would come next.